Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for January 12th, 2018. On today's show, we're going to take a look at the most anticipated movies of 2018, according to SlashFilm.com. This is Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is...
Jacob Hall.
Brad Oman.
Ben Pearson.
Hoai-Tran.
Chris Evangelista.
We got that right on one try, guys. I'm so happy for us. So let's get into our feature presentation. On the site, we listed 25 most anticipated films of 2018. We all had a vote. Those votes were... Actually, Jacob, tell us, how were those votes combined into this list?
It's a very simple system, basic math. Everybody made a top 20, and their number one choice, their most anticipated movie of 2018, received 20 points. Their second choice, their number two, received 19 points, all the way down to the number 20, receiving 1 point. And then we just did the math, and the top 25 films that had the most points from the entire team made it on the list. So in theory, somebody's number one that wasn't anybody else's list could have made it onto this list. So it ends up being a way that we build a representative list, but also some deeply loved personal favorites can slip into.
Yeah, and on the site, you can read the whole top 25 and see our individual picks. But in this podcast, we're only going to live the top 15, and we'll start out the top 15 with number 15, The Irishman.
Yes. Yeah, I wrote about this one. This is a Martin Scorsese movie. It's been in development for a very long time. It reunites Scorsese with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci, who's been retired basically for a long time, has basically come out of retirement to act again. Harvey Keitel is in it, and also Al Pacino is in it. So it's this old guard of these actors who don't do as much as they used to anymore, but they're all back together again for this film. It's a Netflix movie, which is it's kind of a big deal. It's Scorsese's first Netflix movie, and I'm sure that's going to cause some sort of issue with very, I guess the word is snobby cinephiles who insist that every single movie must be seen in a theater, and I don't know how Netflix is going to handle this. I don't know if they're going to give it a theatrical release. They rarely do that, and we'll see what happens then. But the film is about a mafia hitman who claimed to have been involved with the death of Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa, the Teamster leader who disappeared. No one knows really whatever happened to him. This guy, the guy who wrote the book this movie is based on, claims he took part in Jimmy Hoffa's assassination. Whether or not that's true or not, it doesn't really matter. All I really care about is the film itself, which I'm just very excited to see because I'm just a huge Scorsese fan.
And when is that coming out? Do we know?
There's no official release date yet. There's even a rumor it may be pushed to 2019. I hope not. I'm hoping. I have my fingers crossed. I'm not a very optimistic person, but I'll be optimistic about this, that it'll be out in time for 2018. Probably my guess would be December, that award season push.
And hey, Chris, what's your opinion on the digital effects they're using? Because they're de-aging a lot of the actors for this.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of feel like I wish they would just cast younger actors to play the characters as younger. I guess I'll have to wait and see how it looks, when footage is released. And I guess it really depends on how much time is being spent with them. Like, if the majority of the movie is them younger, I guess it sort of makes sense. If you're getting all these actors together again, why not make them work as much as possible? But I am a little skeptical about how that's going to turn out, but we'll see.
And I can't imagine that Netflix won't do a day and date theatrical release for this film. It just seems like obvious money to be had, so I think they'll do it, but we'll have to see. Number 14 on our list is a film that I kind of championed to be on this list, and that is Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph 2. I was a huge fan of that first film. I think that film kind of jump-started the Walt Disney Animation Studios assance, or whatever you want to call it. And it was such a great film set in the world of the arcade machines and the games that are in the arcade. This film is going to take Ralph outside of his normal arcade games and into the internet. And that worries me quite a bit, but I did see some footage at D23 Expo that showed some really great pop culture mashups, and it was just really fun and funny, and I hope the whole movie is as funny and charming as the footage that was shown. It does worry me a bit because, part of my love for Wreck-It Ralph 1 was kind of like that arcade 8-bit setting of that world. But we'll have to see. And that movie comes out in November 21st, 2018. But let's get to our number 13 pick, and that is First Man.
Yeah, First Man is the next film from director Damien Chazelle, who did Whiplash and La La Land. And after those two movies, I'm on board for whatever he does next. I think those two films are both excellent. I know Film Twitter likes to drag La La Land through the mud, but that movie wrecked me, and it still wrecks me when I think about it. And Whiplash is such an exciting, small movie. The fact that he went from that to this highly regarded Oscar-winning musical, tear-jerking melancholy musical is such an amazing leap. And First Man is an even bigger leap. It is a biopic. It's a biopic about Neil Armstrong, the NASA astronaut who was the first man to walk on the moon. And it's reuniting him with his La La Land star, Ryan Gosling. So it's Damien Chazelle directing Ryan Gosling in a Neil Armstrong biopic with a supporting cast that includes The Crown's Claire Foy, John Bernthal, a.k.a. The Punisher, Jason Clarke, a.k.a. that awesome actor who's in everything, Kyle Chandler, a.k.a. the greatest movie dad of all time, and Corey Stoll, who I think if you're listening to this, you'll remember him as the villain in Ant-Man, but he's also been on House of Cards, and he's just a really, really solid, good character actor. So it's a really interesting director, a great leading man, surrounded by all these actors who I just like watching, and a subject matter, which is NASA in the 60s, that I find inherently fascinating. So I want to see what this looks like, and it's being released on October 12th, 2018, which is very much an Oscar window. So I have really high hopes for this.
So far, no one wants to see any of the movies early in the year. I see what's going on here. But let's go on to our number 12 pick, and that is The Predator.
Yes, The Predator, which is written and directed by Shane Black. Shane Black being the guy who sort of got his start as like a writing wonderkind. He wrote movies like Lethal Weapon and really changed the game back in the 1980s in terms of Hollywood screenwriting. And he has transitioned remarkably well into a directorial career. His 3 movies so far, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3, and The Nice Guys, are all really, really good. And this is his 4th feature that he's directing. Boyd Holbrook, Olivia Munn, Jacob Tremblay, Thomas Jane, Keegan-Michael Key, Sterling K. Brown, and Trevante Rhodes all star in this. I guess the plot of a Predator movie, which is weird that we don't really know much about this movie in terms of officially released details. Some of the actors have blabbed a few things here and there, but we haven't heard any officially confirmed plot details about this, which is weird that I don't even know what number movie this falls in the Predator series, because you're probably including Alien versus Predator and some of these other weird offshoots in there. But this doesn't seem like a franchise that would be under such tight lock and key. But even regardless of not knowing what this movie is really about, the idea that it's another Shane Black movie and it's him going into the Predator universe and working his magic has me really excited about it. And that one comes out on August 3rd, 2018.
And next up on our list is number 11, Widows.
Yes, Widows. This one comes from director Steve McQueen, who hasn't made a movie since his 2013 film 12 Years a Slave won Best Picture. So that is, the return of Steve McQueen. What is that going to be like? That in and of itself is sort of exciting. But the cast, which includes Viola Davis, Michelle Rodriguez, Carrie Coon, and Elizabeth Debicki, is pretty excellent as well. And the premise is this hook for this movie is what really has me stoked about it. So it's basically about a group of armed robbers who die during a heist gone wrong, and with their husbands dead, the thieves' wives gather together, join forces, and try to finish the job that their husbands couldn't complete. So that sounds like a really, really cool premise. The writer of Gone Girl, Gillian Flynn, is writing the script for this. So the combination of talent involved here and that really cool premise has me super stoked about this one. It comes out on November 16th, 2018.
I'm really glad that premise isn't being wasted on some kind of lame Hollywood comedy, because that sounds like the kind of thing that a studio would waste by turning into something completely stupid.
Oh, totally. Or even like a direct-to-DVD, like a forgettable action movie or something. I'm really hoping this, takes the spotlight that it sounds like it deserves.
It's funny that you guys are putting that spin on it, because when you were, reciting that premise, I was kind of thinking, oh my God, that sounds like kind of a direct-to-DVD comedy bad, movie. But obviously Steve McQueen elevates anything that he does, so we'll have to see. Number 10 on our list is Mission Impossible 6.
Yes, Mission Impossible 6, the sixth installment of this franchise that began all the way back in 1996. Somehow the franchise seems to have just gotten better over the years, I think. With the exception of Mission Impossible 2, I think all of the Mission Impossible movies have something really fun to offer. Especially after...
Sir, Mission Impossible 2 is great. Anyway, sorry.
Just go away, Ben. With the addition of Rebecca Ferguson in Rogue Nation, with having her come back for this new installment is exciting. It's the first time that they've had a female team member actually come back for a sequel. On top of that, we also have Simon Pegg coming back, Ving Rhames. Henry Cavill has a role in this one with the infamous mustache that ruined some of his takes in Justice League. So we don't really know much about the plot of this one. That's kind of been the trend with the recent Mission Impossible movies, is that we don't know exactly what the story is, but they crank these movies out pretty quickly. There's always some kind of big stunt that Tom Cruise pulls off. And as we know, this one, he was injured during one of his stunts, so that'll be interesting to see how that comes through in the movie. So I'm always down for Mission Impossible movie. I'm always down for Tom Cruise pulling off stunts that he is far too old to has any right to be doing. So I'm down to see this when it comes out on July 27th this year.
I'm also down for this. I would disagree, though. I think, and I like director Christopher McQuarrie, writer-director Christopher McQuarrie, but I don't feel like Mission Impossible 5 was better than 4 or 3. But I might be alone in that assessment. Brad, what do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that they've gotten incrementally better over the years. When I say they've only gotten better, I just mean like, I like they haven't really lost any steam. I guess that's probably what I should have said.
Yeah.
Because my personal favorite is actually Mission Impossible 3. But yeah, I think that the way they've kept the team element together, and even though these are Tom Cruise vehicles, the team plays such an integral role in the movie, and that's kind of what I like about this franchise.
Yeah, I think it's going to be impossible for any of these tentpole action sequences to top the sequence in Brad Bird's Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. But we'll have to see. Number 9 on our list is Ocean's 8.
Yes, Ocean's 8. It's a sequel / reboot of the Ocean's 11 franchise, Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11 franchise, with a female-centric cast. Look, I don't really need to tell you the plot of this movie. If you've seen any Ocean's movie, you know what the plot's going to be. It's going to be a group of talented thieves coming together to pull off a job, and it's going to be light and frothy. And what attracts me to this movie is that cast. This cast is phenomenal. I mean, Cate Blanchett is in it, wearing really cool velvet suits. Rihanna's in it, Sarah Paulson's in it, Sandra Bullock. Just the cast alone is what's really drawing me to this movie. I think if it had a different cast, I wouldn't be as excited as I am about it, but I'm pumped for this. And the trailer was even better than I thought it was. I was expecting a sort of like point and shoot sort of direction when the trailer broke, but the trailer has a lot of style to it, which surprised me. I do feel like it's just trying to basically ape Soderbergh style, but that's fine. I mean, I'll put up with that. But yeah, I'm excited for that. That comes out June 8th.
Well, it's kind of sort of about from the same series, so I think you kind of have to do some of the style. But the thing I love, aside from the cast, is the suburban take on this. Like that, it's not like these huge, flashy, glamorous cities. It's kind of like suburban mom, and I don't know. That just seems like an interesting take on where to do a reboot of this series. But number 8 on our list is A Wrinkle in Time.
So, A Wrinkle in Time is the Disney adaptation of Madeleine L'Engle's sci-fi classic, A Wrinkle in Time. It's directed by Ava DuVernay, and speaking of a star-studded cast, it has Reese Witherspoon, Chris Pine, Oprah Winfrey, Mindy Kaling, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, and Zach Galifianakis, as well as newcomer Storm Reed. So this is a really lush, stunning take on the sort of abstract sci-fi novel that Madeleine L'Engle wrote back in the 1960s. And it is Ava DuVernay's first feature film since Selma, which is highly anticipated because she's been kind of very picky about what projects she's been attaching herself to. And this was one of my favorite books growing up. It's a real mind-bending, cerebral story, especially one that's made for kids. And I think with the really beautiful visuals and sort of vaguely Afrofuturistic visuals that we see in the trailers and in the images from A Wrinkle in Time, it's going to be an even more elevating sort of take on this story, which is really exciting. And it also has the colorblind casting of the lead, Storm Reed, who is traditionally just a white girl in the book, although her race isn't specified, but it's a really diverse approach to this story that people have long been familiar with.
And when does this film hit theaters?
It hits theaters on March 9th, 2018.
Which makes it the first film in our list that is from the first half of this year, which does not bode well for this first half of the year, I think. But number 7 on our list, Isle of Dogs.
Yes, Isle of Dogs is two things. It is the new film from Wes Anderson, and more importantly, it is the new stop-motion animated film from Wes Anderson. You remember he made Fantastic Mr. Fox, the Roald Dahl adaptation a few years ago, and that movie is incredible. It's all Wes Anderson's usual touches, but in a world that he can control 100%. Every little detail, from the way people move to the way things look, it's all under his complete control, and his aesthetic is unparalleled when he has that level of domination over the form. And Isle of Dogs is about a boy who finds himself stranded on an island full of quarantined dogs, and the cast is insane. It's Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, Bill Murray, Jeff Goldblum, Greta Gerwig, Frances McDormand. It's a huge paragraph of people, and which is what you expect from a Wes Anderson movie. He always assembles those large casts. But in Fantastic Mr. Fox, I feel like he utilized those actors really well. They weren't just put in recording booths. They went out and recorded their scenes together. So even though the movie had that very controlled aesthetic to it, the acting felt very natural, even when it's coming out of stop-motion animals. So Isle of Dogs, just by the principle of being Wes Anderson and the principle of being a Wes Anderson stop-motion animated movie, is very exciting. And if it's half as charming and as fun and rewatchable as his previous one, then I think it could be one of the best movies of next year, or this year, flat out. And that we'll find out March 23rd, 2018.
Oh, another movie from the first half of this year, so maybe I am wrong. We'll have to see with the remainder of this list. I am a huge fan of Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I agree with you. The more control Anderson can have over the visuals, the better. But let's go on to our number 6, and that is Halloween.
Halloween, I can't believe in the year 2018 I'm excited for a Halloween movie, and that's number 6 on our list. But that's what you get when David Gordon Green is taking control of this. And he's not the kind of director you expect to helm a horror movie, much less, I think it's like, the 10th, 11th, 12th movie in a horror movie franchise? But what's interesting is that this new Halloween is disregarding almost all the sequels and acting as a direct sequel to the first movie. Jamie Lee Curtis is returning as Laurie Strode, the original final girl from the first and second movies, who then was killed off much later in the series, so you can tell they're disregarding all those increasingly awful sequels. And Judy Greer plays her daughter, and Annie Matichak plays her granddaughter. So it's 3 generations of Strodes once again being hunted by Michael Myers all these years later. And with the screenplay written by Green and Danny McBride, yes, the comedic Danny McBride, I don't know what this movie's going to feel like. But John Carpenter, who is famously cynical about the sequels and has famously joked about all the checks they give him and how he doesn't care about what they do because they're so far gone from his original movie, has expressed his enthusiasm for this and even wants to return to do the score. So Carpenter's enthusiasm, plus just the sheer left field choice of David Gordon Green to make this, I think this could be the most exciting thing to happen to Halloween in literally 40 years since the first movie came out. And we'll find out for sure on October 19th of this year.
Fitting release date right before Halloween. Number 5 on our list is Solo, A Star Wars Story. And this is a film which I am very nervous about, actually. It's the first Star Wars movie that Disney has produced that I wasn't, insanely excited about when they first announced it. I'm not sure we need a origin story for Han Solo. There's been trouble on set. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the original directors, were replaced with Ron Howard. But I have talked to some people who have seen the movie, and they say nothing but good things about it. So that has me excited. I don't know. It could, as Jacob writes in the piece, it could fail spectacularly, or it could end up being a return to that character that we all knew and loved from the original trilogy. I'm optimistic, despite all these problems. The film comes out on May 25th, 2018. And number 4 on our list, The Incredibles 2.
So The Incredibles 2 comes 14 years after the first Incredibles, and that was sort of in the early days of Pixar, back when they were still making acclaimed movies, but not quite the behemoth that they are now. But unlike Toy Story 3, which came a long time after its previous sequel, this film takes place immediately after the events of The Incredibles 1. And we don't know exactly what the plot is about yet, but we do know that it deals with Mr. Incredible finding out that his son Jack has powers, and it's going to be an exciting return to this really colorful, really vibrant world, especially with all the voice actors coming back. Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Sarah Vowell, Samuel L. Jackson, Bob Odenkirk, Catherine Keener, Huck Milner, and director Brad Bird is also going to be helming this film. So we'll see how it goes. It's very exciting, and when it comes out on June 15th, 2018.
Guys, I'm wondering, is anybody else nervous about this film? Because, this is a film that I've, since the first one came out, I've been like, we need an Incredibles 2. We need an Incredibles 2. And since then, we got the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we've kind of gotten these good superhero films. But seeing the teaser trailer of this with Jack, it kind of makes me nervous that maybe we didn't need the Incredibles 2, and maybe Brad Bird was right. Is anybody thinking that?
I would be nervous if Brad Bird wasn't back, but my whole thing is Brad Bird also made Ratatouille. He also made Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, and I feel like you don't make those movies and then make a dud like Tomorrowland and then make another dud. I think there's a fire under him, and I'm excited to see him return to form with these characters that are so excellent.
We've also only seen a teaser trailer, Peter, so Who knows where this movie will go.
For sure. Number 3 on our list is Avengers: Infinity War.
I mean, we don't really need to say why we're excited for this movie. This is a movie that fans have been waiting for ever since the mid-credits.
Brad, I've never heard of this movie. Tell me about this movie.
So, have you seen Paul Blart Mall Cop?
I have not. Even though it was shot in the mall I used to go to as a little kid, I have not seen it.
Okay, so you have some catching up to do, because this takes place in the Paul Blart Cinematic Universe.
Do you think anybody's actually going to go to see Infinity War without having seen any of the other Marvel movies?
I mean, there's probably a chance. I would imagine that there's probably some people who have friends who will drag them to the movies, even though they haven't seen any of the previous Marvel movies, just because they're like, this is going to be huge and crazy. And, some people...
I know someone personally that went and saw Thor Ragnarok who had only seen Guardians of the Galaxy previously.
Interesting. I wonder what that experience was like.
They loved it, and now they're marathoning through the whole MCU. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we're excited about this movie because ever since the first mid-credits scene from the first Avengers debuted, we've been promised that Thanos has been lurking in the background, very poorly trying to gather Infinity Stones throughout the entire run of the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far. But now it seems like he's finally done screwing around, and he's strapping on that Infinity Gauntlet, and he's going to start gathering stones and kicking some serious Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy ass. This is exciting simply because we're going to see all of these, Marvel characters that have been built up over this long series of movies since 2008 come together to fight this threat that they've never faced before. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see the Avengers meet the Guardians of the Galaxy. It might be kind of weird that they won't all get the same amount of screen time, since it's, the movie can only be so long. This is just big blockbuster filmmaking that has such a rich history with so many films that came before, and it'll be great to see what all these characters do together, and how Anthony and Joe Russo, really pay off this long lead that we've had to this iconic comic book storyline coming to the big screen. So we'll find out just how good of a job they do when it hits theaters on May 4th.
But Brad, would it be good storytelling if in the end of the movie, Thanos is not able to get the Infinity Gems and pulls out some kind of device we've never seen before and defeats the Avengers with that device?
Wait a minute. Do you mean that you mean by will we see Thanos all of a sudden have all these abilities that we haven't seen anybody have before because he has the Infinity Gauntlet and all the Infinity Stones? Oh, that would be weird.
Okay, we're going to talk about more about that later. But let's get to our number 2, and that is Black Panther.
Well, speaking of Marvel movies that you don't really need any knowledge of the Marvel Universe going in, this is Black Panther. It's directed by Ryan Coogler, and it is the much-anticipated first solo black superhero movie coming from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it stars Chadwick Boseman in the title role as Black Panther / T'Challa, as well as Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrera, Martin Freeman, Daniel Kaluuya, Andy Serkis, Angela Bassett, and Forrest Whitaker. So as you can tell, it's a majority black cast, which is a hugely significant event, not just for the MCU, but for Hollywood in general.
Is there a better black cast for any film in the history of films?
I don't think so. I think the next one to come close is probably Selma. But this is definitely a movie that's gearing up to be a huge event. There's a reason that we put it up one position above Infinity War, just because this feels like a cultural phenomenon more than just a movie event. And it deals with the Black Panther, T'Challa, after the events of Captain America Civil War. And he's trying to defend Wakanda, the technologically advanced country in Africa from which the Wakandans and his people are from an old enemy played by Michael B. Jordan, who is Killmonger, as well as new ones such as Andy Serkis's Ulysses Klaue. So it's really lavish, it's Afrofuturistic, it has complex action spy thriller plots. So I am majorly excited for this, and I'm mostly excited to finally see Lupita Nyong'o show her face in a big blockbuster film, because often she gets hidden behind CGI characters, and she deserves to showcase her talents on the big screen in a big tentpole.
You said a word there, Afrofuturistic? What does that mean? I've never heard that before.
Afrofuturistic is this sort of visual style that's based in the aesthetics and the culture of African countries, and it's this sort of literary genre, I think, that's sprung up recently. I don't have a complete knowledge of it, but you can tell by the very tribal influenced designs of the Black Panther costumes, and they're sort of more smooth, futuristic designs. That's kind of what Afrofuturistic means.
I'm sorry, go ahead. If you're interested in Afrofuturism, This American Life did an episode a few months ago dedicated to exploring what it is and what it means. And it has a lot of different definitions for a lot of different people, and some of which are aesthetic, as HT talked about, and some of which are more thematic and personal. And the one that stood out to me, if you don't mind me sharing this, is the idea that the future will be black because black people have survived more turmoil than anyone else. So of course they will own the future, which ties into Black Panther, which is about a technologically advanced African country, which I thought was a very fascinating hour. And if you look at This American Life past few episodes, maybe I'll find it for the show notes. It'll give you a really good idea of what this is going into Black Panther.
Oh, cool.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. And when does that come to theaters?
It comes to theaters on February 16th, 2018. So that's the earliest movie we've had on our list so far.
Yeah, so we are having some movies from early in the year on this list, but they're closer to the top of the list, which actually gets me excited for the next couple months. And with that, I will segue into our number one choice, and that is Annihilation.
Yes, Annihilation is adapted from the book by Jeff Vandermeer. It's the first book in his, it's called the Southern Reach trilogy. And it's this very strange sci-fi fantasy thriller. I gotta say, I'm actually a little nervous for this movie because I love the books, and the books are very cerebral. They're very they're very impenetrable, and I'm worried the film is going to have trouble capturing that. And there's actually been, behind the scenes problems with producers also worrying that the film is quote unquote too smart for, average moviegoers. And the first trailer they released was great. It was weird, and it was, just a very strange trailer. The second trailer was terrible. It made it look like a Predator sequel, which is not what the story is like at all. So I'm hoping that trailer was just cut to make it look like that, to, lure in, the average moviegoer. And I hope that's not what the final film is like, but I guess we'll see. The cast is great. Natalie Portman, Tessa Thompson, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Gina Rodriguez, Oscar Isaac. They're all in this. The plot of the book is there's this sort of event that causes this rift, and it creates this zone. It's called Area X, where nothing is really as it seems. There's just, life forms in this area that aren't normal. I don't want to. I'm being vague because I don't want to spoil a lot of stuff, but the book is great. I actually like the second book more than the first one, so I hope this actually becomes a film trilogy. I hope this is the start of something good, but I guess that depends on if anyone sees it or not. And this comes out February 23rd.
And, of course, we have 10 more movies that we did not talk about here. You can read the whole list on slashfilm.com. We will link it in the show notes. I'm not going to outro everybody here because we just have too many people on the show, but you can find all of them on slashfilm.com in one way or another. And Slash Film Daily is published every weekday, bringing you the most exciting news from the world of movies and television and a deeper dive into the great features from slashfilm.com like today. You can subscribe to Slash Film Daily on iTunes, Google Play, Overcast, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send us your feedback, questions, comments, concerns, mailbag questions to peter@slashfilm.com. And please go rate and review us on iTunes. Spread the word, tell your friends, and we'll see you on Monday.